What's up guys? Today, I want to talk a bit about recent happenings in Master Duel, like the reduced time limit and the current meta in Platinum and Diamond. As always, like, comment and subscribe to help me out if you can. I'm gonna have some duels playing in the background as I talk about this. These are all Swordsoul vs Despia matches from Diamond rank. As they are two of the current top decks in Master Duel, I think it'll be helpful to everyone. Let's start with the time limit. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this change so far. I more or less knew changes to the time limit would happen eventually, but I'm not a big fan of this change overall. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very unique game where a lot of strategies need very long turns to play. The shorter timer ends up discouraging those decks from being used, further funneling the player base into simpler decks. From my testing with Synchro, for example, while still very much viable, it can become extremely hard to be optimal in more complicated game states, like trying to break boards and end the duel in the same turn when going second. Most decks weren't really using the full 8 minutes, so I don't think having the extra time for when you do run into players using these more complicated decks was an issue. But of course, that is just my perspective, and I am a little biased, as Synchro is my favorite mechanic, and Synchro-based decks tend to take longer to play. Let's segue into what decks have been getting success in Diamond. The two decks you're seeing in these duels are part of the current top tier in the game. I'd say, from my experience, the other two you most commonly run into are Flounderies and marincess. In my opinion, Flounderies in particular has gained more traction than it normally would due to the time limit changes, as it is the easiest of the top tier decks to play well. The banning of Hockey Fibrax put a stop to adventure decks for the time being. And at this point, I think my main complaint about Master Duel in general, is that Konami's current design choices for the game's future are weirdly contradictory. We're getting things like more serious ban lists and a reduction of time limits that are clearly focused on the competitive side of the game, yet we're still stuck playing single duels with no side decks. If Konami wants to appeal to competitive players, that's the first thing that should have been implemented. As it is the primary fundamental difference that makes a lot of people that play in real life or in Dueling Book not take Master Duel seriously. I think anyone that has played recently knows how frustrating it is to lose a game because you drew a bunch of dead cards against a deck that doesn't special summon or use the graveyard when the rest of the decks in the meta do. Side decks exist to stop these cases from costing you the entire match. Of course, I don't think full matches should be imposed on players either, maybe two separate ranked modes for single duels and full matches could work. How would you implement this, if you were in charge? On the other side of the coin, most of the events we've been getting really lack the creativity needed to keep the interest of more casual players. Things like Synchro, Fusion and Maxx festivals are about as basic as it gets, with a few good exceptions like the Limit 1 event, most of what we're getting has been stale. This Link festival that's about to start has so little interest that I've seen quite a few channels that always make videos about upcoming events completely ignore it. From my perspective, instead of all these events, I'd much rather they focused on implementing a good draft mode in the game. For those that don't know, that's a mode where you build your deck out of random cards picked one at a time, then go up against other people that did the same. Almost every digital card game has a mode like this. Hearthstone's Arena being the most obvious example. I think something like that would instantly reignite interest in the game for a lot of people. In my view, this lack of commitment to either the more casual or the more competitive side has stagnated interest in the game from both groups, as Master Duel has become a game with a lack of identity. Alright, I think I've rambled on for long enough. I'll leave you with the rest of these duels. And the deck list for the Swordsoul deck I'm using will be at the end of the video, and written in the description, should you want it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.